A lottery is basically a tax on people who are really bad at math and they cannot calculate the odds and the real numbers. Welcome to the Academy of Photography. Christian Chudo here. People say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now I'm going to share with you a picture which is worth at least 50,000 or even 100,000. This is an infographic I have found on Facebook. Someone shared it, I saw it, I looked at it, and I was really impressed with the simplicity and how direct and how easy it represents the triangle of exposure, the relationship between the shutter speed, aperture and ISO. My suggestion is just have a look. If you are really struggling with the camera settings still, just print it, just look at it and play with your camera settings, each individual part in manual mode until you actually start to understand what's going on. That is the best representation of a camera settings entire course in one picture. I sincerely believe that, and I wish I had this kind of pictures and this kind of help when I actually started to learn photography myself in the past. Okay, that's the picture. It's found on lifehack.org. I do not believe they are the authors, they are just bloggers, but that's not the point. I'm going to talk about the picture. It has 104,000 shares and I felt the need to share it immediately, and the moment I shared, other people have shared it as well. So on the top row you will see the relationship between the aperture f1.4. You will see a lot of blur in the background in this small diagram, and going to the right, the aperture is decreasing in size, it increases in the number, and the background is popping up more and more clear. So this is basically the relationship between aperture and depth of field. Going on the midsection, you will see this little man running in the diagram. 1/1000th of a second, it shows a clear man. A 500th of a second, 250, 125, you're starting to see a little bit of blur. So by the time you get to 1.2, it's really blurry. So I mentioned many times before, 125 is safe for wedding photography because there's not a lot of action, but if you want to capture really fast action, you need to go 500th of a second, of 1/1000th of a second. I don't believe people can actually hold the camera manually on a 60th of a second, so I do not recommend that shutter speed. And if you go down, you will see the ISO 50 to 25,600. I believe whatever it's above 800, probably 1600 for a good camera, it's still okay. Whatever it's above 3000, it's non-usable any longer. So my suggestion, take this picture, print it yourself, have it laminated, have it in your pocket, and try to play with your camera settings until you understand. I believe this is by far the best representation of the exposure triangle, and this is basically an entire course. We can talk for hours and hours about each individual settings and each individual value, but this is the best representation of the camera settings and the relationship in between them ever, in my opinion. So it's one course condensated into one picture. And before I go, I would like to offer the credit to the author. However, the internet is a very big and misleading place, and I have some difficulties identifying the author. So this article came from the lifehack.org. It's an article, this is a blog about everything and anything. That's not my point. I'm trying to go to actually who's the author, because I would love to offer the credit. It jumps to Photography Basics #2, Aperture Shutter Speed. That's a different kind of blog about photography, which is not that bad, but I could not find the picture. I'm gonna let you do the exercise if you're interested, but what I would like to ask you, if you know who is the author, just send me an email. I would love to be able to assign the appropriate credit. I'm not gonna go any further because this blog doesn't show the real picture, and if I go back, I'm gonna see a feature photo credit photographer Atalay Karakorenli via Flickr. I already checked, I couldn't find it there, but anyway, that's not the point. So if you know the author, please send me a message. I'll be happy to place a link in the description. There's not much further to say. My suggestion is just print it, have it in your pocket, think about it, look at it every day when you have your camera, and try to play with the settings individually, because this is how I learned and this is what I'm trying to teach other people to learn. Play with each camera setting individually until you understand what everything is doing. Simplicity is everything, less is actually more. Thank you for watching. Until I see you next time, I wish you happy shooting.